Welcome back everyone to Brew United. I wanted to show you today Tactics Ogre Reborn and roughly the first 15 minutes of the game, which I think is about enough time to give you an example of the choices you make and the impacts they have on your character. I hope you enjoy. The game's going to start out and ask you to pick when you were born. The impact of this on your character is minuscule, if nothing. In fact, I haven't read anywhere as of yet that there's any impact at all. So pick a date you like, see the name that you like, black scale, twin scale, whatever, and roll with it. Because again, not a big decision. Now, tarot cards are a different story. They will make an impact on your character. However, it's not going to be a game-changing, game-breaking type event. It'll go really into a high, medium, and low stat change based on the decision that you make. To cover the randomness of this, because you do not get the same cards every playthrough, I'm going to pop a link in the description that actually gives a good mapping and overview on if you choose X, what it'll actually mean to your stats. Again, this is not going to be a massive change to your character. In fact, when I do playthroughs, I really don't look at what it's going to mean to the character. I actually pick the decisions that I would make in real life. You know, I think that's a cool way to play it. I feel more emotional attachment to the character in the creation piece when I actually make decisions that I would make. Anyway, go how you want to play. This is not me trying to influence you, just letting you know that there are some minor character boosts by making certain decisions, but not really going to change the game or ruin the game for you either way. Once you get through the tarot card section, you're going to be moving into what is the patron deity that you follow. And this has a little bit more impact because the elements that are associated with the deity actually have strengths and weaknesses compared to other ones. Much like Final Fantasy does with lightning and water and earth, I believe. Yeah, you're going to see the same thing here. So you can't really go wrong here, but you're going to see advantages and disadvantages in certain battles that you get into, much like any game you play if you're a certain elemental type. So I pick Earth type because a lot of the things that I use are very attuned to that playstyle. So you're going to have to probably start a game, try it out, and figure out what works for you. And again, you can go back and start another character. I kind of do that way too much. And while we've got the credits rolling, let me tell you a little bit about my initial impressions on the game, because me starting over really happens right after this section of the video. So you really don't have, in the first 15 to 17 minutes of the game, an opportunity to tweak your party other than that initial creation of the main character, Denim. Now, when you move beyond this, and you'll see right at the end of this video, the capability for you to go to the first area to try out your first battle and actually then pick the group and hire the group that you can use becomes available. And a lot of these decisions that you're going to make at that point are the party that you're going to have to live with for probably an entire chapter and a half. The game does have a capability of leveling characters very fast, and this typically happens around your union cap level. Now, what is that? We're going to have to get into this in different videos, but basically, at a certain part of the story, you can only be X level. So it discourages you from trying to max level every single character, you know, to level 99. And let's say that was a potential. It'll actually stop you at, say, level 12 for the area. And it also keeps the game challenging because you're going against people when you're level 12 and they may be level 14. And you really feel that tension that you're maybe not good enough or you're just right at the level that you could be to beat them, and it really drives difficulty to a certain extent. Again, this game, you cannot change the difficulty level at all. So you're going in with the way that the developers actually intended the game to be played, which reminds me a little bit of an Elden Ring type, you know, feeling. You're going to be playing it at a certain level of difficulty. Good luck to you, you know. So in the beginning of the game, you're going to be introduced to a couple of guest party members. One is called Vice, He's a bit of a pro and a con depending how you play the game. And this is going to get into some of the branching that we need to talk about. And you're going to meet a character called Kachua, which is Denim's sister. If you look at the three characters, you're going to see Denim as your typical warrior type. You're going to see Kachua as the healer. And you're going to see Vice as kind of a rogue ranger style character is probably the best way I'd describe it. Now, a bit of a pro tip to the game is if you just dive in and hit new game and you're seeing the dialogue that we're currently looking at, you're really missing a lot of the storyline. And what do I mean by that? If you actually start the game and you just allow it to play through all of the different opening scenes, you're going to understand a lot of the backstory that you see the three of them talking about right now. And I think that's worth doing because the main storyline that you see right now is the Wallister, which is the three of them, versus the Galgastani, and how that came about and why that's a big problem. You at least get the basis for that in that initial opening scene. Now, one thing that I'm not doing justice for is this entire game is voiced with very limited exceptions. So I'm actually not playing it because I think, for one, it's hard to talk over, have them talking and me talking at the same time, but I think it's actually worth experiencing for the first time yourself. You can watch videos where you probably have playthroughs. I'd like to give you a taste for why I think this game is fantastic. Now, I know it's a bit tongue-in-cheek that in the previous video that I did, I was sitting there waxing nostalgically about why I think Triangle Strategy is so great, and maybe not so great, but at least so good. I think it's better for the beginner. This video is more around, okay, I've already played Triangle Strategy, or I already have some familiarity with this type of game, but I haven't played it yet. So a little bit of a distinction there that I wanted to make. But you can see at the beginning here, they're going to give you just a light taste of what the battle feels like, and it's not really going to play out to any extent that really shows you all the dynamics of the game. This game does a really good job, despite the complexity, of allowing you to kind of walk your way into it, but the decisions that you start making really in the next 5 to 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, start really impacting the type of party you have. So what I'm going to do on the next video is actually show you maybe some of the initial things that you need to look out for. For example, if you move there, you have different advantages on attack. And if you move there, you have even better advantages on attack. Also, I'd like to focus on some of the characters that you can create and hire, and what I would do to maybe start what many would consider an unorthodox party, where you have people that all have certain skills or don't have certain skills, and how you can build that party up to be extremely powerful, not just in the beginning, the middle, but even into the late game, and ultimately make it where you're not struggling as much to get through every fight. I mean, let's be honest. That's the reason that we want to play a game, is to have fun, enjoy the story, and ultimately not struggle from the beginning to the end. And that's what my video will continue to do, is going into the different, what I would consider tips and tricks of starting this game, and also how certain things that you level will just have a fantastic impact on the battles that you're going to be facing, not just now, but even going in, but even 50 or more hours from now. So there's initially confusion between Vice, Kachua, and also Denim on who this Lancelot is. There's actually a Dark Knight called Lancelot, and there's a Holy Knight, which is this Lancelot. That's an initial kind of trip up even for me, because when I first played the game, I was even confused of who was who, but I was even thinking back to Ogre Battle, where you have a lot of these same character names, and there's probably an overlap there that I'm just not picking up on. These are people from Zenobia or New Zenobia. The Starseer Omen was actually one of the characters who helps you out in Ogre Battle at the beginning. I need to read a little bit on that to actually understand Is that the same person? As of right now, I couldn't tell you. That's one thing I didn't research, so I need to Google it myself, right? Party has realized is the initial person they thought they were going to kind of ambush is not the right person. And the other thing that you're going to find is that Duke Ronway is the character that is over the Wallister. He's kind of the leader of that group, and he is currently imprisoned. So there's an opportunistic thing that happens right now, which is these Knights of Zenobia, and also the three of the main characters that you've been introduced to, have the opportunity of then teaming up and rescuing that particular Duke. Now, this is an example of some of the decisions that you're going to start making. You really don't make any decisions of consequence until you're getting to the initial battle at Balmamusa, and this starts determining which path you go down. So there is a lawful path, there's a chaos path, and there's also a neutral path. These paths are determined by dialogue decisions, and options that happen from there are very far-reaching into the game. It could be who you can recruit, who you can't recruit, who dies, ultimately how the story plays out. And the really tricky thing in this game is the decisions that you think you're making sometimes turn out to be some of the worst decisions. And that first decision at Balmamusa, I'll just go ahead and tell you, was one that I made one decision and I didn't realize the impact of characters that would not be available to my party moving forward because of a simple morality decision, which actually wasn't that simple. So a lot of the dialogue you have here is really building on who everyone is, what their role is in the party. You're starting to see some early doubts of people's characters. And there's a general theme here that there's definitely some seasoned knights, and there's really 3 kids that are trying to change the world. Very common theme for many JRPGs, and this tactical RPG is definitely no exception to that. The beginning of this game, as you can tell, there's so many dialogues, there's so many backstories, it's all getting thrown at you. You are helped along by it being voiced. That's a good thing. I think if this game was just read-only like previous tactical games have been in the past, that really is a detractor for me now that I've had a lot of voiced games. In fact, some games like Octopath Traveler, I know it's not exactly a tactical game at all, but they voice half of it, and the other half, they just do certain voiced sounds. And to me, that is a detractor even as much as just not voicing the entire game. So I really like to see these games like Triangle Strategy, like Tactics Ogre Reborn, where they've got a majority, high 90s of voice talent being in the game, because, that just adds to it. You also get a little bit more of the character building rather than trying to just read every single thing, which to me is overwhelming. Maybe you're the type of person who doesn't like that, but I can tell you for me, it's a detractor not to have it voiced at this point in 2023. So here we have Vice talking about the ultimate goal is to go ahead and rescue the Duke Ronway of the Wallister. And that's, by themselves, that's not going to be a task they could accomplish. So these knights coming up has really been a lucky boon to be able to accomplish that task. Because after all, they're exiled knights. They need purpose. You can see the winged individual called Canopus is a fantastic character throughout the game. I can tell you that that's someone you're going to interact a lot with, and you're going to love the strengths of that character, as well as many others that are kind of the, in brackets, named characters, even though all characters in this game do have a name. And that's something we're going to have to get into. I'm thinking as I'm recording this video, all the different subtle nuances that you really have to look into to really have a successful game going forward. And, named characters versus characters that you can hire is a big difference in certain particular stats. And we'll get into that on further videos. So as of right now, I've not picked the selection There Is No Need, which I actually think I'm going to go back and try that. And maybe I can report in the next video what that actually impacts. Or maybe I can just Google it. Maybe you can Google it. Who knows? So this starts the initial part of the game. It's basically an introduction to who the characters are, what their struggles are, Again, if you're going to be playing the game from the beginning before you hit new game, go ahead and let it just take its time and cycle through the story. It's voiced. There's some pretty cool animations. It really tells you who these characters are and why they're worried about certain things, which I can't stress enough is really important to pulling you into a game, understanding really what is the backstory we're talking about here. If not, it could just come across as three whiny teenagers that come across a group of knights and are playing out some type of fantasy to rescue the Duke. What I can say in playing the game is I've tried two different paths. One in which Vice is definitely with you. The other one, he's definitely not. And I think what I went was, initially, I went the chaos path. And without realizing I went the chaos path. So if you're somebody that really likes to understand how that plays out, maybe you would almost look into searching the web to find out what path you want to stay on. Is it lawful? Is it not? I happen to play the game in a way where I make my own decisions at the beginning, and then I've realized the error of my ways and usually all the things that I missed, and I might actually then go back through the game and play it to get certain milestones or certain characters. I don't know. How do you play a game? I'd love to hear your comments on how you take this type of game in stride. You know, do you play through it the way you would? Are you someone who likes to get the best ending every time? And do you actually research that at the beginning? I don't know if there's a wrong way, just saying the way that I like to play it. Would love to hear from you in the comments. So that is the initial start to the game. We are now picking up Lancelot and his allies. We have also Vice and Cachua with us, and we are taken to the world map. So let's pause here. Let's pick this up on the next video. Really appreciate everyone watching as far as you did, and would love a subscribe or a like or a comment, whatever you want to throw at the video. Hope you enjoyed, everyone. Have a great day.